Cavewoman tries sunglasses for the first time. Daylight has always been my enemy. Not in the poetic way some people say, like those who complain about waking up early or prefer the shade of a tree. For me, sunlight was a physical assault, a daily violence I had to face just to exist in the world like other people. My name is Elena, I'm 32 years old, and I've spent most of my adult life being called the Cavewoman by my coworkers. Not out of malice, most of the time. It was more of a recurring joke, something that started when they noticed that I always chose the desk furthest from the windows, that I wore baseball caps inside the office, and that I had an impressive collection of scarves and hats. "You're like a vampire, only a real one," my cousin Lucas used to say at family gatherings, always laughing at the way I would shrink back whenever someone opened the curtains. The problem is that he wasn't completely wrong. I have severe photophobia. For those unfamiliar with the term, it's an extreme sensitivity to light that turns something as simple as leaving the house into a monumental challenge. It's not just discomfort. It's instant headaches, nausea, uncontrollable tearing, and a sensation like someone is sticking needles directly into my eyes. For years, doctors tried to discover the exact cause. They did tests, more tests, MRIs, consultations with neurologists and ophthalmologists. The hypotheses varied: chronic migraine, some undiagnosed neurological condition, congenital hypersensitivity. In the end, what mattered was the practical result: my life was governed by light. Waking up early was torture. The simple act of opening my eyes already required mental preparation. I kept the bedroom curtains closed with double layers of blackout fabric, the kind that promises total darkness. Even so, I needed a good 15 minutes to adjust, sitting on the bed, blinking slowly, preparing my nervous system for what was to come. Having breakfast in the kitchen was impossible if the sun was shining. The glare reflecting off the white floor, the stainless steel surfaces, the wall tiles, everything conspired against me. I learned to eat in the hallway, or sometimes I'd go back to my room, taking my cup of coffee and my toast to the only place where I could function. Work was another level of complexity. I had an administrative job at a medium-sized company, nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. The office had huge glass windows, part of that modern design that celebrates integrated environments and natural light. For my colleagues, it was wonderful. For me, it was a minefield. I negotiated with my boss to work in the most secluded workstation, in a corner that received less direct light. Even so, I constantly had to wear hats or visors. In meetings, I was always that odd person sitting at the back of the room, my face half hidden, avoiding direct eye contact because the light from other people's eyes, reflecting off me, also bothered me. "Why don't you wear sunglasses?" was a question I heard at least 3 times a week. The answer was frustrating: I used to use it. Or rather, I tried to use it. Over the years, I've amassed a collection of sunglasses of all kinds. Classic aviators, modern wayfarers, sporty models, those with side protection, polarized lenses, lenses with UV 400 filters, some that cost the equivalent of my monthly rent. I bought them online, in physical stores, and asked for recommendations in forums for people with photophobia. None of them really worked. Some helped marginally, perhaps reducing the discomfort by 20 or 30%. But never enough. Never enough to make me feel normal, to allow me to go out on the street without a military-style route plan that included as much shade as possible. There was a time when I tried special glasses for photophobia, the ones with amber or FL41 lenses, which supposedly block specific wavelengths that cause migraines. They cost a fortune and came with promises of transformation. I wore them religiously for 2 months. The improvement was so subtle that I don't even know if it was real or a placebo effect. What was most frustrating was seeing people with even milder light sensitivity come up with simple solutions. "Oh, I don't like the sun much either, so I wear sunglasses and problem solved," they'd say, as if it were that easy. As if my brain wasn't programmed to interpret light as an existential threat. My social life was practically non-existent. Outdoor parties. Impossible. The beach? Are you kidding? Even an afternoon coffee at a bakery could become problematic if outdoor tables were the only ones available. I learned to be creative with excuses. Oh, I'm tired today, I'm not feeling very well, I need to work on the weekend. It was easier than explaining for the 1000th time that no, I wasn't being dramatic, and yes, the light really did hurt me that way. Romantic relationships were especially complicated. There was a boyfriend, a few years ago, who simply couldn't understand. He loved outdoor activities, hiking, camping, anything involving glorious sunshine. At first, he tried to be understanding, but over time it became clear that my condition was too much of a burden. "You need to try harder to overcome this," he said once, during an argument. As if willpower could cure a neurological dysfunction. We broke up 3 months later. It was around this time that I truly began to isolate myself. I accepted that my life would be small, contained, lived mainly in indoor spaces and during the darkest hours of the day. I became a nocturnal creature out of necessity, not by choice. I shopped in the early hours at 24-hour markets, walked the empty streets at 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, and developed an intimate relationship with the silent and somber city that exists when everyone else is asleep. It wasn't exactly depression. But it was a kind of resignation. A melancholic acceptance that some people simply weren't made to live fully in the light of day. I was one of them. Until, 3 months ago, everything changed. It was my sister, Carolina, who sent me the link. She lives in another city, but we keep in regular contact through messages. Carolina has always been the optimist of the family, the person who believes in second chances and small miracles. I used to find that irritating, but I also recognized that it came from a place of genuine love. "Elena, look at this," her message read, accompanied by a link to an article about a new technology in eyeglass lenses. "I know you've tried 1,000 things, but this one seems different. At least take a look." I almost ignored it. My skepticism was well balanced after so many disappointments. But there was something in the way she wrote, a contained hope that made me click. The article was about a company that developed lenses with adaptive nanotechnology. It wasn't just about darkening or filtering wavelengths, but something about particles that responded dynamically to different types of light, adjusting in real time. They cited studies with people who had neurological conditions, chronic migraines, and severe photophobia. Studies with people like me. I read the article 3 times. Then I looked for more information. I found academic papers, testimonials on specialized forums, reviews from beta users. Everything seemed too good to be true, which immediately triggered my internal alarms. How many times had I already fallen into this trap? How many revolutionary products had already promised to change my life? But there was something different this time. The testimonials weren't vague or exaggerated. They were specific, technical, written by people who clearly understood the difference between marketing and real science. A neurologist specializing in migraines had written an extensive analysis. Several ophthalmologists were recommending it. And, perhaps most importantly, the company wasn't making outlandish promises. They clearly stated that results varied, that it wasn't a solution for everyone, that some people saw significant improvements while others experienced modest benefits. This honesty, strangely, gave me more confidence than any guarantee of success would have. The price was high. Very high. The kind of amount that would make me rethink several months' worth of budget. But I had some savings, money I'd been putting aside without a specific purpose, just for security. And I thought, if there's any chance, however remote, that this will work, isn't it worth a try? It took me 2 weeks to make the decision. I talked to Carolina, who encouraged me. I obsessively researched the company, checked credentials, and read every review I could find. Finally, one sleepless night at 4 in the morning, I placed the order. The waiting weeks were long. The company had a backlog because each pair of glasses was customized, calibrated to the user's specifications. I had to fill out detailed questionnaires about my condition, submit medical information, and have a virtual consultation with one of their specialists who asked more questions than any doctor I had ever consulted. Her sensitivity seems to be primarily related to the blue light spectrum and rapid transitions in brightness, explained the specialist, a woman named Dr. Mendez. We're going to calibrate the lenses to respond specifically to these triggers. I can't promise specific results, but statistically, people with her profile tend to experience significant improvements. When the package finally arrived, it was a cloudy Tuesday. The irony was palpable. I was going to test my sun sensitivity glasses on one of the few days without strong sun. The box was surprisingly simple. No over-the-top packaging or promises printed in large letters. Just a minimalist black box with the company logo discreetly engraved on it. Inside, the glasses looked normal. That caught me off guard. After all the mental hype I'd built up, I expected something obviously high-tech, with LEDs or digital indicators. But they were just glasses. Elegant black frame, timeless design that wouldn't attract attention on the street, dark lenses but not absurdly opaque. There was a detailed instruction manual and a small card with a handwritten message, "Welcome to your new perspective. Allow time for adjustment. Team Lumina." I put the glasses on while still inside my apartment, with the curtains closed. I didn't feel anything initially, which made sense considering there was little light to block. They were comfortable, lightweight, and didn't pinch my temples like some of my old glasses did. I walked to the window, my heart racing. It was a moment I had experienced dozens of times before, the cautious hope that perhaps, this time, something would be different. And the mental preparation for the inevitable disappointment. I placed my hand on the curtain cord and took a deep breath. I pulled. Daylight streamed into the apartment, that diffused, cloudy daylight that would normally still cause me discomfort. I braced myself for the familiar twinge in my eyes, for the onset of the headache that would spread to my temples. He didn't come. I blinked. I looked directly at the window, something I could never, ever do without consequences. The light was there, I could see it, but it was different. Soft. Filtered in a way that my brain didn't interpret as a threat. It wasn't just darkening. I had worn dark lenses before. This was something else entirely. It was as if the quality of the light had changed, as if the specific aspects that caused pain had been surgically removed, leaving only the visual information. I stood there for 5 minutes, just looking outside, testing whether the pain would come on late. Sometimes it did, a second or two of tolerance before the nervous system panicked. But no. 5 minutes turned into 10. 10 turned into 15. I kept looking at the light, at the gray sky, at the buildings illuminated by the diffuse brightness, and nothing hurt. I started to cry. I hadn't planned it. It wasn't a dramatic movie cry, just an involuntary reaction to realizing that something I thought impossible was happening. Silent tears streamed down my face as I stood there, motionless, looking out the window like any normal person would. "It works," I whispered to the empty apartment. "Damn, it works." But the real test would come later. A cloudy day was one thing. Full sun would be something completely different. I spent the rest of that Tuesday in a state of optimistic caution. I tested the glasses in different rooms of the apartment, turning on all the lights, opening all the curtains. Everything that would normally force me to wear hats and visors inside my own home. I felt minimal discomfort, nothing compared to what it was before. That night, I obsessively checked the weather forecast. Wednesday, bright sun, clear skies, 28 degrees. Perfect. I could barely sleep. I kept alternating between excitement and fear that, somehow, the glasses would stop working. That it had been an illusion, a placebo effect, some kind of temporary magic that would disappear with the first real exposure to the sun. I woke up at 6 in the morning, even though I didn't need to be at work before 9. The sun was already rising, that early golden light that used to keep me locked in my room until later. I put on my glasses while still lying in bed and went to the window. The sun was there. Direct, intense, bright. And I was looking at it. Not directly at the sun, of course, I'm not suicidal. But at the illuminated sky, at the light spreading across the city, at everything that would normally be my personal kryptonite. And everything was fine. It wasn't just tolerable. It was comfortable. Beautiful, even. I'd forgotten how beautiful sunrises could be when you're not busy feeling like someone's hammering nails into your eyes. I had breakfast in the kitchen. In the kitchen. With the curtains open. The sun streamed in through the window, illuminating the table, warming my skin. I sat there for 40 minutes, simply existing in the morning light, doing something that billions of people do every day without a second thought, and which, to me, seemed like a miracle. Carolina called me at 7:30. So, did you test it? They work, I replied, my voice strange even to myself. Carol, they really do work. She screamed with joy on the other end of the line, and we both ended up laughing and half crying, having one of those emotional conversations that sisters have when something really good happens. You have to go out, she said. You have to go outside, walk around, do something you've never been able to do before. She was right. I decided not to go to work right away. I texted my boss saying I was dealing with something personal and would be late. He wouldn't mind. I had credibility as a responsible employee, and lateness wasn't my habit. At 8 in the morning, I left home. The sun was stronger now, the day promising that late spring heat that used to be my worst nightmare. The streets were full of people going to work, the city alive and noisy and bathed in golden light. And there I was. Walking. Without haste, without planning a route to maximize shade, without the constant fear of when the next pain crisis would begin. I stopped in a square I passed every day but had never really visited. There were wooden benches under the direct sun. People sat reading newspapers, drinking coffee, simply existing in the morning light. I chose an empty bench and sat down. I lifted my face to the sun. I can't adequately express what that meant. To spend 32 years of your life avoiding something, building your entire existence around not being able to do something as simple as feeling the sun on your face, and suddenly being able to do it. It's a feeling of freedom that people without these limitations will probably never experience, because they will never know what it's like to live without it. I stood there for half an hour. People passed by, no one paying attention to the woman sitting on the bench with sunglasses. And that was perfect. I was invisible. Normal. Just another person enjoying a beautiful day. When I finally got to work, I was an hour and a half late. But I was smiling in a way my colleagues had never seen me smile before. Elena. Are you okay? Asked Rodrigo from accounting when I walked in. I'm great, I replied, and it was true. I sat at my workstation in the dark corner and, for the first time, it bothered me. Why was I hiding there? There were open desks near the windows, bathed in natural light, the places everyone wanted but I always refused. Can I change locations? I asked my supervisor. I'd like to try working near the window. He seemed confused but agreed. After all, people usually made the opposite request, wanting to escape the sun. I moved my things to a table next to a large glass window. The sun streamed directly in, illuminating the white surface and reflecting off the computer screens. It was the kind of place that would have been my personal torture a week earlier. I sat down, adjusted my glasses, and started working. A few hours later, I realized I had completely forgotten about my glasses. I was just working, normally, without that constant background of discomfort and anticipation of pain. For the first time in years, my attention wasn't partially occupied with managing my condition. I was just living. The following days were a series of small revelations. I discovered that I could do my shopping during the day. Go to the supermarket when it was open and well lit, not at 3 in the morning like a fugitive. See the products properly lit, choose fruits and vegetables seeing their true colors, not under the artificial yellowish light of the early morning. I discovered I could eat lunch out. There was a restaurant with outdoor seating that I always looked at enviously when I passed by. I sat there one Thursday, eating quinoa salad under the midday sun, surrounded by people doing the same thing. Nobody knew this was historic for me. It was just lunch. I discovered I could visit my mother during the day. She lives in a house with a beautiful garden that I had only seen in photos or during nighttime visits. I arrived there at 2 o'clock on a sunny Saturday afternoon, and she almost fainted from fright. "Elena, what's going on? Are you okay?" "I'm better than ever, Mom." We sat in her garden, under the afternoon sun, and I told her about the glasses. She cried more than I did, holding my hand, repeatedly saying how unfair it was that I had spent so many years suffering with something that people didn't even understand properly. "You can do anything now," she said. "Everything you've ever wanted to do." And she was right. The list was long. I went to the beach for the first time in almost a decade. Not only did I go, but I spent the whole day there. I walked on the sand, dipped my toes in the sea, sat in the sun, and read a book. A physical book, not a Kindle with adjustable brightness, just a regular book with paper pages reflecting the sunlight. Around me, children played, couples sunbathed, families had picnics. I was part of that ordinary, mundane, beautiful scene. And because it was so ordinary, it was extraordinary. I started saying yes to things. When colleagues invited me to happy hour at bars with outdoor terraces, I went. When Carolina suggested a weekend at a country hotel, I agreed. When a work group organized a morning walk in the park, I was the first to confirm my attendance. My colleagues noticed the change. "You seem different," commented Juliana, the HR manager. "Lighter. More present." She wasn't wrong. I was present in a way I'd never been before. I wasn't constantly calculating how long I could stay in a room before needing to escape to the shade. She wasn't always partially focused on her current level of discomfort and whether it was increasing. She was just there. The impact on my mood was significant. I didn't realize it immediately, but after a few weeks, looking back, it became obvious. That layer of constant low-level stress that I had carried for years had disappeared. I woke up without dreadlocks, without already calculating how I would survive the day. My productivity at work improved. Relationships became easier. Little things that used to annoy me, like someone wanting to talk when I was concentrating on not having a migraine attack, no longer bothered me. And then I started thinking about bigger things. I always wanted to travel, but severe photophobia and travel don't mix well. Most tourist destinations involve being outside, in the sun, exploring. I had given up on that dream a long time ago, categorizing it as one of those things that just wasn't for me. But now what? I started researching destinations. Not places specifically for people with disabilities, but ordinary places. Beaches in the Caribbean, historic cities in Europe, trails in Patagonia. Places where people went precisely for the beauty of the natural light, the sunrises and sunsets, the sun-drenched landscapes. I chose Greece. It had been a long-held dream, something I used to look at in photos knowing it would never be possible. White islands under the Mediterranean sun, turquoise blue sea, archaeological sites without any shade. I bought the ticket on a whim, before I could reconsider. 2 weeks in Athens and the islands. Alone, because I didn't want the experience to be mediated by anyone else. It would be my personal journey of rediscovery. The trip was everything I had imagined and more. Seeing the Acropolis under the morning sun, feeling the warmth of the ancient stones, gazing at the endless horizon of blue sky without needing to run for shade. Each moment was an affirmation that my life had changed irreversibly. In Santorini, I sat in a cafe overlooking the sunset the island is famous for. Tourists crowded the place, all with cameras and cell phones at the ready. I also took photos, but spent most of the time just watching. Observing how the light changed, how the sky went from blue to pink to orange to purple. 50 minutes of pure visual spectacle that I was experiencing for the first time in my adult life without the filters of pain and discomfort. A woman sitting next to me, Australian by her accent, commented, "Is this your first time seeing the sunset here?" "This is the first time I've actually seen a sunset," I replied. She seemed confused, so I briefly explained about photophobia and glasses. Her face changed completely. "My God," she said softly. "What an incredible gift you just gave yourself." And she was absolutely right. I returned from Greece transformed. Not in the cliché sense of "I found myself" that people use after trips, but in the literal sense that my life now had possibilities that didn't exist before. It was as if new colors had been added to my palette, my world expanded from black and white to technicolor. I started thinking about bigger changes. My apartment, which I specifically chose because it had small windows and little natural light, now felt claustrophobic. I started looking for new places, wanting large windows, balconies, light streaming in from every corner. At work, my career had stagnated for years because I avoided any position that required more exposure, more external meetings, more flexible hours. I started considering promotions, new opportunities, jobs that would take me out of my safe cubicle. And, perhaps most significantly, I started dating someone. I met Daniel at a networking event my company organized on a rooftop. Before getting my glasses, I never would have gone. An outdoor event, during the day, under the sun. Impossible. But now. Just another Thursday. He worked at another company in the same building, and we started talking about something trivial that I don't even remember anymore. What I do remember is the feeling of being there, in the middle of the day, under the sun, having a normal conversation with an interesting guy, without having to cut it short because my head was starting to explode. "Would you like to grab a coffee sometime?" he asked at the end of the event. "I would love to," I replied, and it was true. Our first meeting was at a cafe with large glass windows and outdoor tables. Before, I would have suggested a darker, more enclosed place, or made up a complicated excuse. But there was no need for that anymore. I told him about my photophobia the third time we went out. Not because it was a secret, but because I wanted him to know me as I was now, not through the filter of who I had been. "That explains the amazing sunglasses you always wear," he said, smiling. "I thought it was just a really cool style." "It's both of them," I replied, and we laughed. It was strange and wonderful to be in a relationship where my condition wasn't the main limiting factor. Daniel enjoyed outdoor activities, hiking, cycling, spending entire days exploring the city. And now I could do those things with him. One Sunday morning, we woke up early and he suggested watching the sunrise from a famous viewpoint in the city. 3 months earlier, I would have automatically declined, my reflexive response to any activity involving prolonged exposure to the rising sun. But instead, I said, "Let's go." We arrived at the viewpoint while it was still dark, along with other early risers and photographers. We stood there, holding hands, while the sky gradually brightened. Dark violet turning into deep blue, then a lighter blue, then those first golden rays appearing on the horizon. "Thank you for bringing me here," I said. "Thank you for wanting to come," he replied, shaking my hand. He didn't fully understand the weight of that moment, how could he? But he was there with me, and that was enough. Months went by, and the novelty of wearing glasses gradually became normal. And that's when I realized something interesting. The real transformation wasn't in the dramatic moments of the first times, but